Continuing along here with the sum or difference formula, the next two examples are very similar to the one we just walked through. However, these are in radians. And if you're not familiar with these radian measurements, feel free to convert these into degrees. So for number 2, use the sum and difference formulas, find the exact value of the cosine of 13 pi over 12. Well, I'm not quite sure what 13 pi over 12 is exactly, so I can't really break that down into two fractions. So let's convert it into something that I do know. 13 pi over 12 times pi over 180. Pi's cancel out, and then 13 times 180 divided by 12 is going to be 195. So really what I'm asking for right here is the cosine of 195 degrees. So I'm going to ask myself, what two values on the unit circle either add up to or subtract to give me 195? And for me, I like the addition side of things better. I know that 60 and 135 are both on the unit circle. So the cosine of 60 plus 135 is going to be 195. So my A value is going to be 60, my B value is going to be 135. So we'll use our formula. Cosine of A plus B is the cosine of A, cosine of B, minus sine of A, sine of B. And I say A is 60 degrees and B is 35 degrees. So the cosine of 60, cosine of 135, minus the sine of 60, sine of 135. Cosine of 60 is 1/2. Cosine of 135 is negative square root of 2 over 2. The sine of 60 is square root of 3 over 2, and the sine of 135 would be square root of 2 over 2. So if I simplify that down, negative square root of 2 over 4 minus square root of 6 over 4, that's going to give me negative square root of 2 minus square root of 6 over 4. And once again, I can confirm that on my calculator to see if I've got the correct answer. So let's do that really quick here. Make sure I'm in degree mode. The cosine of 195 is equal to negative 0.9659, all that stuff. So then we'll plug in my final answer and see, do I get that same exact decimal? So negative square root of 2 minus the square root of 6. Let me put all that in parentheses up there. And then I'm going to divide that by 4. And sure enough, you can see I get identical answers. So the cosine of 13 pi over 12 is the same thing as the cosine of 195, which is negative square root of 2 minus square root of 6 over 4. The last example of this type is using the sum or difference formula. Find the exact value of the sine of pi over 12. Once again, if you don't know what pi over 12 is, you can convert. So pi over 12 times 180 over pi. Pi's cancel out. 180 divided by 12 is 15 degrees. So really what I'm asking for is the sine of 15 degrees. Now, I don't know any way to add two numbers on the unit circle to give me 15 degrees, but I can definitely subtract two values. And the two values I can subtract are 45 and 30. So this one's going to be a difference formula, where I'm going to let A be 45 and B be 30. So this is going to be a sine of A minus B problem. Sine of A minus B is equal to the sine of A cosine of B minus sine of B cosine of A. So we've got the sine of 45 cosine of 30 minus the sine of 45 sine of 30, looking at the B value there, sine of 30 cosine of 45. Then I can solve that out. Sine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of 30 is going to be square root of 3 over 2. Sine of 30 is 1/2. And cosine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. So square root of 6 over 4 minus square root of 2 over 2. And you can plug that into your calculator to confirm that the sine of 15 is really square root of 6 minus square root of 2 over 4. We could also go in the other direction. If I give you this step already, can I figure out what my original angle was? And that's really what I've got right here with my sum or difference formulas, finding the exact value for these expressions. So here, cosine of 78, cosine of 18, and sine of 78, sine of 18. We know this is the formula cosine A, cosine B, plus sine A, sine B, where A is 78 degrees and B is 18 degrees. So which of my formulas is the cosine of A, cosine of B, plus sine of A, sine of B? And if you look at it, this expression is the exact same thing as the cosine of A minus B. So since I said A is 78 and B is 18, I'm dealing with the cosine of 78 minus 18, which is going to be the cosine of 60 degrees. Or if you want to plug that in and get your value, it's going to be 1/2. Same thing can be true with decimal values. Doing the same thing here. If I say A is 3.4 and B is 1.7, the pattern I have is sine of A, cosine of B, minus cosine of A, sine B. And which of my formulas is that? Well, sine and cosine are combined together, so it's going to be one of the sine formulas. The minus sign means it's going to be the minus sign. So it's the sine of A minus B. So the sine of 3.4 minus 1.7 is the sine of 1.7. And if you wanted to, you can plug that into your calculator to get a decimal equivalent.